So there is still a huge challenge of poverty. There's a huge challenge of providing better health care. India is acutely aware that we need to translate our high growth into better UNDP indicators of human development, and that means attacking the problems of malnutrition, of poor health care, of low levels of school enrollment, etc. And those are major challenges that we face.
When you spend some time in India and you see the extent of the poverty, and when you watch road construction, for example, being done by hand, you realize that India still has a long ways to go. It has the resources, it certainly has the people you need to rise in the world economic community. It is a strong nation militarily as well, but it needs to advance in terms of technology, not just high tech, but things like road building. Well, one thing India can do is become more aggressive in international broadcasting. A number of major powers, ranging from the US to Russia to China to France and many others, have international broadcasting channels now that get their stories out to the larger world, and it would make sense for India to do that.
There are a lot of stories that can be longer. There are a lot of crises that can be managed if we bring a campaign approach to meet elections, which is kind of lacking right now.
And until unless we do not understand where this perception gap is between what they think of India as, the kind of brand that India exists in their minds, we will never be in a position to address this issue of bridging this gap between perception and reality. When we interact with most of the government representatives, I think that area needs to be developed further, where a person has that acumen or the skill or the relevant experience to come up and be in a position to drive communication using the technology, the medium, as well as the information age right now.
The Indian public diplomats need to have a diverse array of approaches to public diplomacy. Everything from cultural diplomacy, which involves Bollywood, to some of the work that they've been doing in Africa, directly helping people with water resources and agricultural issues and things like that.
The most important thing that comes before it is also to create a conducive climate for its counterpart divisions as well as other governments to understand the value of which, because it doesn't make sense for public diplomacy division trying to work out things, but they do not have ample support that is coming from rest of its supporting allies and partners.
There's no one big team. They have to figure out what does India stand for.
There are certain principles that need to be projected in a cohesive manner, and I guess what is relevant at this particular time right now for India is to talk about the demographic dividend that it has as a very big asset. The second is the democracy and the diversity, and I think these three are probably the core areas that could be spoken of India at this point of time, and these three elements could be used as an interesting building platforms for India, and in terms of messaging for either the business segment or for the tourism segment, the way it exists currently, where there is a dichotomy. You have Incredible India only selling India as a tourist destination, whereas you have another attempt to create a business brand for India to promote India as a business brand. But if you look at it holistically, there has not been enough attempt from India to push its brand. I mean, the brand is already existing in the minds of audiences worldwide, and what we do not understand, or probably we are not in a position to understand, how audiences from various geographies look at India.
Tourism, which is chronically underdeveloped. If you think about how many people, I think as many people that go to Angkor Wat every year in Cambodia visit the entire country of India. So India has a long way to go to capitalize on its tourist strengths. India has more UN World Heritage sites in any country in the world, but there's no consciousness or opportunity to really push that as a type of brand.
It would make sense for India to continue to develop its online capabilities. But I think television is really very important because a lot of the people in the world still do not have access on a regular basis to the internet, while many, many more watch television. So that's something India might consider.
The other thing which excites me is our effort to get into new media and into the internet space in a way that at least hasn't happened in India before. And again, I am trying to do it for 3 or 4 specific reasons. One is the recognition that perhaps a lot of our publicity efforts subconsciously aimed at people like us, and we need to do more to consciously target the younger generation, which is going to be very important for our future opinion makers. The second is that the two-way interactivity that new media gives us provides us very valuable feedback on some of the things that we are doing, and even things that we can challenge proactively. And the third is that these are powerful, low-cost channels of communication, and particularly in a country like ours with a 65% population which is under 30, it's something, the challenge of it, and then to use that medium to create positive narratives about India, about our development partnerships, about the work that we do to improve lives in Africa and other places, get those messages out, is something that excites me.
So I think that especially around Bollywood films and increasingly more around Indian soap operas, there is that opportunity to think strategically about how pop cultural diplomacy can help further India's strategic and geopolitical interests. Right now, I don't think it's being captured in that way. It's been sort of a soft kind of diplomatic opportunity, although it probably hasn't been capitalized on it from diplomatic circles.
Bollywood sometimes doesn't capture the Indian reality also, and there are other stories to be told. So let's not make India very Bollywood. But I mean, of course, we all love Bollywood. Like
the idea that you can just rely on Bollywood is obsolete, because for one thing, China, the neighbor to the east, is very, very competitive with India and has outstripped not only India but really every other country in the world in public diplomacy. So without becoming overly conscious of competing just with China, India needs to recognize that there are a lot of competitors out there, all trying to win the attention and friendship of people around the world. And it's not easy to get that attention or friendship anymore because of that competition. So India, like other countries, including the United States, needs to ramp up its capabilities in doing public diplomacy, be more innovative, be more imaginative, and more persistent.
But we also need to be concerned about other countries and their interests. Their own national interests. I think bilateral relations or even regional politics in that sense are basically a two-way or a multi-pronged approach is required.
I think we first need to engage and listen and understand with what people from different geographies have to talk about us.
The key is to work for beneficial partnerships around the world. Today, we are no longer prisoners of geography. And India and Peru, or an India and Mexico, can build fruitful exchanges in many, many different ways.
This is a dynamic country, very much on the rise. It has a long ways to go, though. That's the thing that you also realize when you're there. It's rising, but it's nowhere near the top, nowhere near where it can get yet. But I think it's headed in the right direction, and it will just take a lot of patience and perseverance to get there.
I'm an Indian and this is India.
I'm an Indian and this is India.
I'm an Indian, this is India.
I'm an Indian and this is India.
I'm American and this is India.